For this, I'm back in the general project setup we worked on before. You find it attached, empty index.html file, empty app.ts file. And in there, I want to dive right in with intersection types. Intersection types allow us to combine other types. Let's say we have a type, admin, which is an object type. So again, this is not creating an object here. We're defining a type. So I'm just defining a type definition here. And admin should have a name, which is a string, let's say. And an admin should also have privileges. And that should be a string array, for example. Now we could have created this with an interface, but here I am doing it with a type. And now I have another type, a general employee type, let's say. And there I also have a name, string. I have no privileges, but I have a start date. And that could be of type date. We haven't seen that before, but date is a type that is supported by TypeScript based on the date object that is built into JavaScript. So now we want to create a new type here, an elevated employee, let's say, which should be the combination of these two types. Now, of course, we could create it manually by simply defining an object type which has a name, which has a start date, and which has privileges. But if we have these two types already, then we can also just combine this by saying admin and, so we use the ampersand symbol here, employee. And now the result is a new object type which must have both. So if I have my employee E1, which should be of type elevated employee, then I can store an object in there which must have a name property, which must have a privilege property, create server, and which also must have a start date. And with new date, I create a new date object, which simply is the current timestamp. So this is now a simple way of combining two types. Now I will say that intersection types are closely related to interface inheritance, because of course we could have achieved the same here by using an interface admin and then an interface employee, and then we could also use an intersection type on these interfaces, or we create a third interface, elevated employee, which extends employee and admin. And therefore, if I now comment this out, we would have the exact same effect. Now, arguably, that's a bit more code. One reason why we maybe would prefer to use types here instead of interfaces, but the relation definitely is very close, and you could absolutely use interfaces for this example. However, it is worth noting that whilst intersection types can be especially useful when used in conjunction with object types, as we're doing it here, you can use them with any types. So if you had some other type, combinable, let's say, and that's either a string or a number, so we have a union type here with the string or number base types, and then we had a numeric type here, which is either a number or a boolean. Well, then we could have our, let's say, universal type here by intersecting combinable with numeric. And in the end, TypeScript then sees that universal, of course, is of type number because that is the only intersection we have here. But if you had more intersections, then this would be the type that is assigned to universal. So that could also be a union type, which is the intersection of these two union types. So the intersection operator can be used with any types, and it then simply builds the intersection of these types. In the case of a union type, that is basically the types they have in common. In the case of object types, it's simply the combination of these object properties, so to say. So these are intersection types. Can sometimes be useful. You'll not use them all the time, but you definitely can encounter situations where you can express something in a simpler or shorter way by using intersection types. Now, just to prove that this also all works, let me open up a new tab here in my terminal and run tsc-w to start the watch mode so that I don't just have the ongoing live server, but I actually also build my code. Now, if I reload once here, we see this runs without errors, and it also compiles without errors.